Hey there! If you clicked on this video, chances are that you are a fan of Tien. He's actually my favorite Dragon Ball character, and over the years, he's appeared in a lot of Dragon Ball games. Since he's best known for his signature technique, the Tri-Beam, or Kikoho, I decided to rank every Kikoho I could find across all Dragon Ball games. Okay, let's begin. Actually, before we begin, I'll have to establish a few things. 1. The Tri-Beam can't be from a cutscene, it has to be usable in gameplay. 2. I'll rank all games from F tier, which would be the absolute worst thing that should never be witnessed ever again, to S tier, which would only be to the best of Tri-Beams. There will also be a Z tier which would be reserved for one single game, the one that is the king of them all, which would be determined at the very end of this video. Finally, shout out to all the YouTubers that I grabbed the game footage from. I do not own any of these gameplay clips, and I am forever thankful for their hard work. And now, let's begin! First up we have Kyoshu Saiyajin. This is the first ever playable Tien, and the first Kikoho. This game also has a multi-form Kikoho, which is a nice touch. It's amazing how Tien used to be such an important character in Dragon Ball games back then, and honestly, it's not that bad for its time. I'd give it a B. Second game is Gekishin Frieza. Even though the game goes through the Frieza saga, it still features Tien, Yamcha, and Chaozu as playable characters and makes them go to Namek, which is pretty cool, but the Kikoho looks awful. I'd have to give it an F. After that, there's Ressen Jinzoningen, the sequel to the last game. I honestly like the sprite work. I'd give it a B. Now we finally move out of the NES into the SNES, and you can immediately spot the improvements. There is finally a background, there are a lot more colors, and they can do more stuff around. The Kikoho doesn't look bad, but where is the rest of his body? I also like how they included the multiform Kikoho. It seems it was a running theme in the older games. I feel like I'd like to place it somewhere between A and B, like it's an improvement over the last games, but it's still not up there. I'd say B, but like, high B. This next game is kinda weird. I couldn't find super attacks, and all I could find was this. It looks more like a Ki Blast, not a Kikoho. I'd give it an F. Up next is the very infamous Ultimate Battle 22. It looks as if he didn't even throw a Kikoho. There is literally nothing on the screen. It deserves a D, but I wouldn't give it an F because this next one is even worse. Although Shin Butoden is like the game that Ultimate Battle 22 should have been, the Kikoho looks even worse now. This one is definitely an F. Now we get into the Budokai series. The Kikoho looks okay in Budokai 2, and Budokai 3 improves it a bit, but the real deal is the Shin Kikoho. The Shin Kikoho looks really good in the Budokai series. I like how much it resembles the anime. You could also feel the impact of the attacks as Tien lands them. The Shin Kikoho really elevates the ranking. I'd give it an A. Before we hop on to the big leagues, there are still a few hidden gems here that include Tien. The Kikoho in Advanced Adventure is more in line with the manga, and it has a lot of impact. It would get an A. Next game is one of my favorites, Supersonic Warriors. The game has Tien as an assist for Krillin, and unfortunately, the Kikoho doesn't really feel that impactful. I'll give it a C. Supersonic Warriors 2 saw improvements on some sides of the game, such as Tien's Kikoho, but I personally liked the first game more in general. I'll give this Kikoho a B though. Dragon Ball Sagas. Yeah. F. Now we finally hop onto the Budokai Tenkaichi, or the Sparking series, and the first one didn't really do Tien good. I mean, why in the world is the Kikoho a beam? That's really weird. And the Shin Kikoho isn't any better. Sorry, but this has to get an F. And a year later we get Budokai Tenkaichi 2, and you can already see a massive improvement. Although I am not a big fan of the flying square, the Kikoho already looks way, way better here than the first game. The Shin Kikoho, unfortunately, is also the same as the normal one here, but that isn't a big deal. BT2 gets an A. And finally, we have reached the greatest game of all time, the one and only Budokai Tenkaichi 3. This one already improves a lot over the previous game. While the normal Kikoho is definitely better, the Shin Kikoho is phenomenal. The attack is so well made, it makes you feel like you are the one firing the blasts. I cannot describe just how much I love this one. This is undoubtedly S-tier worthy. Another hidden gem is Dragon Ball Z Attack of the Saiyans for the DS. In this game, the Tri-Beam looks fine. I wouldn't say it looks either good or bad. I would give it a B. Dragon Ball Z Burst Limit is our first look at an HD Dragon Ball game, and it looks really good. The kikoho in this game is also amazing. I like how they made it stretch further like a beam, unlike the Budokai games, for example. But it doesn't look like a normal beam, as in the first Budokai Tenkaichi. The Shin Kikoho is the same as the normal one, but with extra destruction effects. I'd give it an A. Now we'll get to one of the most beloved series ever, the Raging Blast series. The normal Kikoho does resemble the one in the second and third Budokai Tenkaichi games. The Raging Blast series is actually considered to be the spiritual successor to the Budokai Tenkaichi games by many people, but my biggest problem with it, aside from only having DBZ characters, is the Shin Kikoho. It is unfortunately not up to par with BT3. It has this star shape that doesn't really feel impactful enough when releasing, and I believe the Raging Blast series could have done better. Same goes with Raging Blast 2. The Shin Kikoho still looks the same as in Raging Blast 1. The Raging Blast series did, however, add an extra type of kikoho, which is the Spirit Tri-Beam, so I'll give it a B. Now, we will go to the only Dragon Ball Kai game, which is Ultimate Butoden, also for the DS. The kikoho in this game has this unusual shape, but the screen shakes really improve the experience. It does look okay, I guess. The thing that I really like more, however, is the Shin Kikoho. This one is really special. They sure made a great job adapting this move from the anime. The attack is very faithful to the show. It does look very strong and intimidating, and I really love how they added the crater at the bottom, which is something you don't see in any Dragon Ball game ever. The way he smiles at the end is so unusual though, but that won't affect my ranking. It does deserve an S. Up next is another wasted game, which is Ultimate Tenkaichi. The problem with this game is that the kikoho has a lot of layers instead of being one huge attack. This really downgrades the move for me. It is a nice touch that they kept the Spirit Tri-Beam from Raging Blast, but the Spirit Tri-Beam is the same as the normal one in terms of being in layers than just being a hard hitter. Those two attacks were not that great for me personally, but the Shin Kikoho is something else. I really hate that part where the beam appears in layers. That part is killing me, but I love everything else about it. The way Tien pushes his body back and the way the beam contacts the enemy, and the beautiful stage destruction of Ultimate Tenkaichi. This game could have easily had absolute best kikoho out of them all, but that layered part ruins it for me by a lot. I'll still give it an A. And now we enter the modern era of Dragon Ball, with Battle of Z. The kikoho in this game looks fine, but the way it just stays there just doesn't hit the spot for me. I'd give it a B. Next up is Hyper DBZ. Although this is an unofficial game, it is a very ambitious project that even competes with official games. The level of creativity that this game has is beyond imagination. For Tien, his Shin Kikoho is really good. The way that he zooms up on his opponents before firing, and the way the entire screen lights up when he attacks is perfect. If I had to complain though, I'd say the opponents needs to be moved by the attack a bit more, instead of being locked in place. I'd give it an A. Next up is Extreme Butoden, and there Tien is only an assist. The kikoho is invisible, I guess. C tier. After that, we get a very unique game, Dragon Ball Fusions. Since the game is mainly focused on fusions and also has a huge roster, things like the kikoho are bound to not be all that great. The kikoho in Fusions is okay, I guess. B tier. Up next is none other than Xenoverse 2. a game with a huge roster and a crazy amount of content. I love how Tien poses up while charging the attack, but it's weird how the opponent doesn't get knocked back. The attack is also very transparent, and to mention the elephant in the room, the kikoho is blue for some reason. My guess is that someone at Bandai really loved mystical adventure. In my opinion, they should have added an option to turn it yellow. I am not vibing with that at all. The normal kikoho is a bit better than the Shin kikoho here, because it has knockback and it is less transparent. I'd give it a B. And up next is FighterZ, simply the most beautiful Dragon Ball game ever made. The visuals are amazing, the characters are very great, and everything about it is perfect. Except that Tien only wears his Dragon Ball Super outfit, which is a bummer. His kikoho, however, looks fantastic. It's a really nice thing they added the multiform kikoho once more like in the old games. It really looks amazing and it's perfect for the game. The Shin kikoho is also really well made, and you can feel the impact of every single hit. Honestly, I don't think it'll ever get better than that. It's absolutely S tier. Our next kikoho is from Dragon Ball Legends. I really love how Legends gave Tien such a unique ability. It really feels like how it used to be in Dragon Ball Z, where Tien would come onto the battlefield as a last hope to stop the opponent. Aside from that, it does look nice. It feels like Battle of Z's kikoho, but improved. I'd give it an S tier simply for the context. Our next game is Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission. It honestly looks the exact same as the Budokai games, but I don't think there's a Shin kikoho, so it gets B. And then comes Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And although I love this game's ki attacks and style, I hate the kikoho. This is very weird considering the Kamehameha here is probably my favorite. Kikoho gets F tier though. The next game is The Breakers. And honestly, this reminds me of Gekkito Tenkaichi Budokai. It looks like crap. And now we return to the Sparking series with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. The pose before the normal kikoho here looks nice, but I'd say the blast is smaller than it should be. That isn't my problem though. My biggest problem is the Shin kikoho. Why is it a sphere? Who asked for this? This isn't the Shin kikoho I know. Immediate F tier. And finally, we get to the most recent kikoho. Tien looks so animated and cool in Xenoverse 3, but the kikoho itself looks the same as the previous game. Such a shame, honestly. B tier. Now that we are finished ranking every kikoho, I'll have to crown one game with the tier of Z. The 4 that were on S tier were Budokai Tenkaichi 3, Ultimate Butoden, FighterZ, and Legends. All 4 of them looked amazing, and it is very hard trying to decide which one of them wins. Ultimate Tenkaichi's Shin kikoho also looked great, but that first part of the kikoho really destroyed any chances of it winning. If only that part looked better, I would have undoubtedly put it on Z tier. Kakarot could have also had the best kikoho ever, I'm sure of it, but it unfortunately sucked so bad. If it looked anything like the cutscene from the Saiyan saga, it could have easily won, but no, they can't win, because there's only one winner, and that is Dragon Ball Kai Ultimate Butoden! Although Budokai Tenkaichi 3's, FighterZ's, and Legends' kikohos were all phenomenal, the Shin kikoho from Ultimate Butoden really impressed me. The kikoho knocked the opponents far back, it felt very powerful in every hit, and it also created a huge square crater in the ground. So Ultimate Butoden takes the crown. It is the number 1. It is the... And that's the entire tier list of all the kikohos we ranked today. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. Peace.